They told him it was just leg cramps. But 6 hours into a routine flight, his body began sending 3 silent alarms. Alarms that, if ignored, could have ended his life before the plane ever landed. Here's the twist. Most seniors who face this exact danger don't recognize the warnings until it's too late. I'm Dr. Howard Tucker, a longevity doctor with decades of experience helping older adults live stronger, longer lives. Today, I'm breaking down the 3 little-known clot signals every senior must know before their next trip. These aren't myths or scare tactics. They're backed by medical studies, and knowing them could mean the difference between a safe journey and a medical emergency. Because here's the truth. Blood clots are not just a random risk of flying. They're predictable, preventable, and survivable if you catch the signs early. And once you learn how to spot them, you'll travel with a level of confidence most people never have. When you step onto a plane, you don't think about what's happening inside your veins. You're focused on the trip ahead, the family waiting on the other side, maybe even the excitement of a long-awaited vacation. But here's what the average traveler doesn't realize. After just 2 hours of sitting still, your blood flow through the legs slows down by as much as 50%. By hour 6, that slowdown can set the stage for a clot that forms silently, like a thief in the night. For younger people, the body often compensates. Muscles contract naturally, circulation rebounds, and risks stay low. But for seniors, circulation is already fighting an uphill battle. With age, blood vessels lose some of their elasticity. Veins that once pushed blood efficiently back to the heart now have weaker valves, making it easier for blood to pool in the lower legs. Add hours of sitting still in a cramped airplane seat, and suddenly, the perfect conditions for clot formation are in play. This isn't just theory. A 2021 review in the Journal of Thrombosis and Hemostasis found that people over 60 are up to 5 times more likely to develop a clot during long-haul travel compared to younger passengers. And it's not just about sitting still. Airplane cabins are pressurized to simulate about 6,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level. At that altitude, the oxygen in your blood decreases slightly, thickening it just enough to tip the balance for someone already vulnerable. Combine that with dehydration, common in dry airplane cabins, and the risk escalates. But here's the hopeful part. Knowing this risk gives you power. Because the body isn't plotting against you, it's simply sending signals that most people never learn to recognize. The swelling in a calf that doesn't seem to go down, the sudden heaviness in one leg compared to the other, or a strange warmth in the skin. These aren't random annoyances. They're early whispers that blood isn't moving as it should. And catching those whispers early is exactly what saved the man I mentioned at the start of this story. He noticed his shoe suddenly felt tighter on one foot. He paid attention when a subtle ache didn't fade after standing up. By the time the plane landed, he was able to walk into an emergency room and get treatment before the clot traveled to his lungs or brain. That awareness alone turned what could have been a tragedy into a story of survival. This is why long flights deserve a closer look. For seniors, it isn't about fear. It's about preparation. Your circulation may be slower, but it's not powerless. Small movements, hydration, and above all, recognizing the body's red flags can transform travel from risky to safe. In fact, studies show that seniors who take simple preventive measures cut their clot risk by more than half. And here's the key takeaway. You don't have to avoid travel to stay safe. You just need to understand the body's hidden language when circulation slows. Because once you know what to look for, you'll see the 3 clot warnings not as threats, but as life-saving signals. The first warning rarely shouts, it whispers, and the place it almost always begins is in the legs. Most seniors mistake it for something harmless. Maybe they think it's just swelling from too much salt or stiffness from sitting too long. But here's the truth. When one leg feels noticeably different from the other, the body is sounding an alarm.
Think about this. Your legs are like two rivers running side by side, both carrying blood back to the heart. If one suddenly begins to dam up, the water rises, pressure builds, and the land around it changes. In medical terms, that dam is a clot forming deep inside the veins. The very first sign isn't pain, it's swelling. A shoe that suddenly feels tighter, a pant leg that looks snug on just one side, or an ankle that doesn't shrink back down even after standing and walking. Researchers at the American Journal of Medicine point out that this kind of asymmetrical swelling is one of the strongest early predictors of deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. Yet studies also show that nearly 70% of older adults dismiss it as just circulation or normal aging. That delay in recognition is what makes clots so dangerous. Left unchecked, a clot can break free, travel to the lungs, and cause a life-threatening pulmonary embolism. But here's where hope replaces fear. The body gives you a chance to intervene. The swelling is often mild at first, not dramatic, and that's the opportunity window. Seniors who pay attention and act quickly, getting checked, moving their legs, or applying circulation-boosting strategies, can stop the clot from growing. It's important to note, too, that the swelling isn't always visible to the eye. Sometimes it feels like heaviness, like one leg weighs more than the other, even though they look the same. Sometimes it's a subtle tightness in the calf, almost as if the skin is being stretched from the inside. And sometimes it shows up as a warm patch of skin, even when the rest of the leg feels cool.
Take the man on that 6-hour flight. His very first clue wasn't sharp pain. It was that his left shoe suddenly felt snug, even though he had bought both shoes at the same time. Instead of brushing it off, he paid attention. That single choice, to see swelling as a message, not an inconvenience, is what ultimately saved his life. And here's what I tell my patients. When you're over 60, never ignore one leg behaving differently from the other. Healthy legs may ache after travel, but they recover evenly. Only when there's imbalance, one heavier, tighter, or warmer than the other, should you think possible clot. It's not about panic. It's about awareness. The body's first warning sign isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to protect you. And when you know how to interpret that swelling, you'll never look at your legs the same way again. Because once you recognize the first signal, you're already one step closer to safety. If the first sign of a clot is swelling, the second is pain. But not the kind most people expect. It doesn't come like the stabbing chest pain of a heart attack or the crushing weight of angina. Instead, it sneaks in wearing the mask of something ordinary. Seniors describe it as a dull cramp, like a Charlie horse that lingers longer than it should. Others mistake it for arthritis, gout, or even sore muscles from walking through the airport. That's why so many dismiss it, and why clots get the upper hand. The pain of a deep vein thrombosis often concentrates in the calf or thigh. It can feel like pressure building from the inside, or a muscle pulling even when you haven't exercised. The critical difference? This pain doesn't fade when you stretch or massage it. In fact, pressing on the area may make it worse. Medical studies confirm this. A 2020 review in Circulation found that nearly half of seniors who developed clots first noticed calf pain, but almost all of them assumed it was a benign issue like muscle fatigue. By the time they realized it wasn't going away, the clot had already grown. Here's where awareness changes everything. The The pain is usually one-sided. One calf aches, the other doesn't. And while ordinary cramps tend to strike at night or after exertion, clot pain can appear suddenly, even while sitting quietly. It's also often paired with tenderness in the vein itself. Run a finger lightly down the inside of your leg, and if you feel a localized soreness, that's not normal post-travel stiffness. That's your body waving a red flag. Let's return to our traveler on that 6-hour flight. After he noticed his left shoe tightening, he began feeling a nagging ache deep in the calf. He thought it was from sitting too long, but when he stood up to walk down the aisle, the pain sharpened instead of easing. That was the moment he knew something wasn't right. His choice to treat it as a warning rather than brushing it off is what led him to seek help before the clot reached his lungs. Now here's the hopeful side of this story. Pain that disguises itself also gives you a chance. If you're over 60 and you notice a calf ache that doesn't fit the pattern of ordinary cramps, you have the power to take action. Walking briefly to see if it improves, hydrating, and, most importantly, seeking medical attention if it persists, can make the difference between a treatable clot and a life-threatening emergency. Pain doesn't always mean danger, but when it's asymmetric, persistent, and paired with swelling, it's not just discomfort. It's the second early warning system your body has built to protect you. And once you learn to decode that pain, you'll never confuse a clot with just a cramp again. The third warning doesn't start in the legs at all. It strikes where most people least expect it: your breath. Imagine sitting calmly, maybe watching the in-flight movie or reading a magazine, when suddenly you feel short of air. Not a dramatic gasping, but a subtle shift, a heaviness in the chest, a struggle to take a full, satisfying breath. Many seniors chalk it up to cabin air, altitude, or just nerves. But here's the truth. When breathing changes suddenly, it can mean the clot has moved. This is the moment when deep vein thrombosis can transform into something more dangerous, a pulmonary embolism. That's when a clot breaks free from the leg and travels to the lungs, blocking blood flow and limiting oxygen. The signs aren't always dramatic at first. It might feel like mild breathlessness, a fluttering heartbeat, or a sudden sharp twinge in the chest when you inhale. For some, it shows up as dizziness, lightheadedness, or even a sense of unexplained anxiety. Studies from the American Heart Association highlight that seniors are especially vulnerable because many already live with conditions that mask these symptoms. Someone with COPD may assume it's just a flare. Someone with mild heart disease may think it's angina, but the timing is key. If the sensation appears after long sitting or recent travel, the possibility of a clot must be considered. The man on that 6-hour flight learned this the hard way. After landing, he felt his chest tighten, as if someone had placed a weight on it. He thought maybe it was exhaustion, but when a few deep breaths didn't clear it, he realized he needed immediate help. Doctors later confirmed that part of the clot had already traveled to his lungs. His decision to treat that breathing change as urgent rather than dismissing it is what kept the situation from turning fatal. Now, here's the hopeful side. The body doesn't let this happen in silence. Breathing changes are the third and most urgent signal, but also the most unmistakable if you're paying attention. Unlike leg swelling or calf pain, which can be easy to excuse, breathlessness out of proportion to your activity should always be taken seriously. Seniors who listen to this alarm and act quickly often recover fully, with treatments that can dissolve the clot before permanent damage is done. Think of it this way. Your breath is your body's most essential rhythm. If it suddenly falters, Don't wait for it to pass. See it for what it is, a call for action, and often the final warning before things escalate. Recognizing this sign doesn't just save lives, it gives seniors the power to travel, live, and explore without fear, knowing they hold the keys to their own safety. Here's the good news. Blood clots may be serious, but they're not inevitable. Seniors who understand circulation can tilt the odds dramatically in their favor. Prevention isn't about expensive gadgets or complicated routines. It's about small, consistent habits that work with the body's natural defenses. The first line of defense is movement. Your leg muscles act like pumps, squeezing blood back toward the heart with every step. That's why experts from the Journal of Travel Medicine emphasize something as simple as standing up and walking the aisle every hour or two during a flight. Even seated, you can flex your ankles, draw circles with your toes, or press your heels into the floor. These tiny movements mimic the pumping action and keep blood from pooling. Hydration is another overlooked shield. Airplane cabins are notoriously dry, wicking away moisture and thickening blood just enough to raise clot risk. Studies show dehydration can increase clotting factors in the blood within hours. Seniors who sip water regularly, not coffee, not alcohol, help their blood stay smooth and flowing. A glass of water every hour during travel is a small act with big impact. Compression stockings may not sound glamorous, but research proves their power. They apply gentle pressure that keeps blood from stagnating in the lower legs. A 2016 Cochrane review found that seniors wearing compression stockings on long flights cut their clot risk by more than 50%. They're discreet, affordable, and far more effective than most people realize. But prevention isn't just physical, it's also nutritional. Omega-3 fatty acids from salmon, flax, or walnuts help reduce inflammation and keep blood vessels flexible. Vitamin K2, found in fermented foods like natto or certain cheeses, directs calcium away from arteries, improving circulation. Even something as simple as a daily walk combined with an anti-inflammatory diet makes the blood less sticky and more resilient against clotting. And here's the empowering truth. Seniors don't need to fear travel or daily life when they embrace these habits. In fact, the same routines that prevent clots also enhance overall vitality. Walking improves balance and joint strength. Hydration boosts memory and energy. Omega-3s and vitamin K2 strengthen bones in the brain along with blood vessels. Prevention isn't just about dodging danger. It's about stacking the deck toward a longer, freer life. Take the man whose story we've been following. After his scare, he didn't give up traveling. He made changes, wearing compression socks, drinking water, and walking the aisles. On his next flight, he landed with no swelling, no pain, and no breathlessness. What could have been the end of his story became a new beginning. That's the ultimate message. Clots don't control you. Awareness and preparation do. Seniors who outsmart clots before they start don't just survive, they thrive, traveling confidently, living actively, and proving that aging doesn't mean surrendering independence. For too long, conversations about clots have been wrapped in fear. Headlines warn of silent killers, and patients are often told to worry more than they're told to prepare. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't save lives. Awareness does. When seniors understand the body's signals, the swelling in one leg, the disguised pain, the sudden breathlessness, they shift from being passive passengers in their health journey to active participants. And that shift is powerful. Research published in the British Medical Journal found that seniors who were educated about clot risks were more than twice as likely to seek early treatment, when symptoms appeared. That knowledge didn't just reduce hospitalizations, it saved lives. Awareness means replacing guesswork with recognition. Instead of asking, "Is this just aging?" seniors learn to ask, "Is this my body sending a signal?" That subtle mindset change transforms uncertainty into action. The result? More people getting checked early, more clots being caught before they spread, and more families spared the shock of sudden emergencies. And awareness doesn't rob seniors of confidence, it builds it. Think of the man on that 6-hour flight. Before, he saw legs swelling as harmless. After, he saw it as a warning. That awareness didn't make him fearful of traveling again. It gave him a checklist, a sense of control. He knew what to look for, when to act, and how to keep himself safe. Instead of shrinking his world, awareness expanded it. The real danger isn't aging, or even clots themselves. It's ignorance. Because ignorance leaves seniors unprepared, dismissing signals until it's too late. Awareness, on the other hand, turns the body's warnings into life-saving tools. And here's the uplifting part. Awareness doesn't just protect seniors in airplanes, it protects them at home, on long car rides, even during quiet evenings on the couch. Every time you recognize your body's signals, you invest in your independence, your freedom, and your future. Fear freezes people in place. Awareness moves them forward. That's why awareness, not fear, is the real lifesaver. It lets seniors keep traveling, keep living, and keep proving that knowledge, not age, is the greatest source of strength. So here's the bottom line. One man noticed 3 subtle warnings on a 6-hour flight, and it saved his life. Swelling, hidden pain, and sudden breathlessness. 3 signals that turned a silent killer into a survivable story. But here's the part no one talks about. Clots aren't the only hidden danger seniors face when sitting for long hours. In fact, there's another silent threat that can strike even faster. And most people mistake it for something harmless, like fatigue or poor posture. That's the story I'll share next. Because while recognizing clot warnings may keep your circulation safe, this other danger could be stealing energy, strength, and even memory right under your nose. And unlike clots, there's no swelling or pain to warn you. The question is, will you catch it before it catches you?